Well, that was not the movie I expected. Luckily, that can still be a good thing. The marketing campaign made The Northman look like a very different movie. I thought this was gonna be some kind of ancient revenge action popcorn romp where a Viking prince watches his father the king get murdered, vows revenge, grows up into this super jacked badass warrior, and then comes back to take on this enemy army led by the man who took everything from him and retakes his kingdom and blah blah blah. And it kind of is, but only on the surface. It has that stuff in it. There's action and blood and killing and things like that, but most of the big set pieces happen in the first act. At the heart of it, this is actually a pretty intimate story about two men and two women. It's still a revenge story, but the army is not really a factor at all, and it's more focused on these themes of personal tragedy, loss, betrayal, and possible redemption. Turns out this is a lot more than just a revenge movie or an action movie. But if you're thinking they slacked off on the action scenes, holy shit, they did not. While action is not the movie's #1 priority, and there probably isn't as much as you might think, when they get to it, there are some sequences that are pretty jaw-dropping. There are sword fight scenes done all in one take with no cuts. There's a scene where Viking raiders are attacking a village, climbing up the walls, jumping over the walls, and sacking the whole place, done all in one take with no cuts. Unbelievable. And Alexander Skarsgård, by the way, is really incredible in these scenes. The closest comparison I can think to make is what Keanu does in the John Wick movies. Like, in terms of physical acting, Skarsgård does stuff here that I'd put on the same level as that. It's not the same kind of action at all. There's no finesse here. There's not a ton of complex choreography and gun fu or whatever. The actors still have to hit all their marks and be in the right place at the right time, which is really friggin' difficult with shots this complicated, but this is just raw, down and dirty, brute force, pure brutality type of action. Like, a 6'4" Viking isn't gonna waste time twirling a sword around in some complex motion before he fights you. He's gonna swing it once or twice, slice you to ribbons, cave in your skull, drink your blood like a savage, and then move on to the next guy. That's the kind of action they do here. And holy crap, is Skarsgård good at selling this stuff. One, because the guy is a damn giant and built like a friggin' gorilla, but he gets so intense in these scenes, almost animalistic. Like, this is a scary dude. This is a visceral, guttural performance. Seriously, if anyone out there is still doubting me that Alexander Skarsgård needs to play MCU Sabretooth, watch this movie. It's like a 2-hour audition tape. So the action is really impressive when they get to it, but the thing you need to remember is that it's not Hollywoodized. The way stuff like this would typically be shot where they try to glorify the action and make it look cool or fun, they don't do that here. They kind of go the opposite way, where there's nothing pretty about it. There's blood and gore, and the action is frightening and messy and dirty, like battle scenes would be in real life. And most of the movie is shot that way, actually. They went for this really raw, naturalistic look, where things that shouldn't be lit usually aren't. There's a scene in the beginning where the king returns from being away for a while, and his whole court gathers together in this hall, and it's nighttime, so they've got their torches lit, but that's the only light source in this place, so it's still pretty dark. There's another scene that takes place near a volcano at night, so the only light source is the volcanic lava, and I was so not accustomed to seeing cinematography like this. Filmmakers tend to want to make their movies look as pretty as possible, where you can see everything even when it's dark, and shots are made to look all bright and clear. And this is another aspect where they're intentionally going in the opposite direction for authenticity, I guess? And what do you know, it still looks beautiful. It's dark and you can't see everything, but when that's by design to enhance the scene and create an atmosphere, it works. Now, they don't go all super realistic on everything, and this is the stuff that kind of weirded me out, because the movie is really steeped in Nordic lore and mythology, and plays it up as if it's all actually happening, and I don't know much of anything about that. Some of it is self-explanatory, like this sequence about a family tree. I didn't really know the significance behind it, but the meaning of it was clear enough. But then there are these other scenes where the king and his son are acting like dogs for some kind of ceremony or manhood ritual, possibly. Or these Viking warriors are wearing animal skins and howling like wolves, which is to help them fight more like animals, I think. There's a scene with this blind shaman woman who does some kind of mystical something or other that, again, looks beautiful, but I'm watching this thinking to myself, I know all this stuff is important, and I know it means something, I'm just not sure what. These must be ancient Nordic traditions of some kind, but there's no exposition dump scene where that gets spoon-fed to you, so they're really putting a lot of faith in the audience to kind of put this together themselves, because they don't hold your hand through any of it. The whole movie is like that, really. There are no pulled punches here, and I don't want to call it Shakespearean exactly, because that's not fair at all, but it feels like that's what they were going for. Like this story of epic tragedy, this prince who watches his father get murdered and his kingdom stolen from him, who dedicates his life to getting revenge, along the way learns what it could be like to live for something else, for something better, but then he might have to let that go in order to protect it. There's themes in there that feel like they're in that same realm. Even the dialogue is written in such a way that harkens back to that kind of stuff. And for a movie that I was expecting to be a typical action/revenge flick with a Viking gimmick, that's pretty impressive. The Northman is not the movie most people probably think it is, and that's gonna mean different things to different people. If you go to see it expecting an action movie, you may be surprised because it has the action, but that's really not the most important thing in it, and it's not shot in the typical way either. It's not a non-stop adrenaline rush type of movie. It's more of a story that punches you in the gut with the sheer brutality of it, and then quiets things down for a while, tells an intimate story about one guy versus the man who took everything from him. Maybe the hero finds love along the way in a place he didn't expect, and then it punches you in the gut again. I wouldn't even call this an action movie, really. It's a revenge movie with action and a lot of other things. Alexander Skarsgård gives an incredible performance. I don't think I need to tell you that Anya Taylor-Joy is also really damn good. And what's more, The Northman feels like kind of a rarity in current year. I wasn't sure this kind of movie could even be made anymore. I think there's a lot of people who will take one look at this, see some of the brutal moments on display, and write the whole thing off as being full of toxic masculinity or some crap like that, and not really appreciate all the deeper stuff this movie is trying to do. So as much as I dug this movie, I also think it's probably destined to not perform very well at the box office. Action junkies might not get their fix completely, people who are squeamish might be a little turned off by it, and it almost comes off like something that was made in defiance of a lot of current social norms. You've got this very manly, powerful, violent lead character. There's a twist with one of the female characters that I thought for sure they wouldn't be able to get away with because, politically speaking, how dare they do that thing with that female character? A story that doesn't necessarily spell everything out when it comes to the lore behind it and kind of challenges the audience to follow what's going on regardless. And I could keep going, but ultimately, this movie, I think, is probably going to be playing to a relatively small audience. And that's a damn shame because this is a great film that really deserves a big one. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know what you thought about The Northman in the comments. Ding that bell icon and follow my social media so you can always be notified when I upload new stuff. Follow my live streaming channel too. We're doing weekly streams for Moon Knight right now. Links to everything are right down there. And most importantly, don't forget to hit that thumbs up, share, subscribe, and make sure you're still subscribed, because what really deserves to watch his father get brutally murdered and his kingdom stolen from him is the YouTube algorithm. That's all for now, but I'll be back with more soon, so stay tuned for that, do all the YouTube things, and I'll see you next time.